The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was the largest structure ever built by any species in the galaxy. It floated in the darkness of space, a massive station where representatives from 847 different alien races gathered to discuss the future of the Milky Way. Lights of every color filled the chamber. Strange sounds echoed from creatures that breathed different gases and saw different. Spectrums of light. In the center of the hall sat the Circle of Power, 847 seats, each one representing a civilization. Some seats were enormous, built for creatures the size of buildings. Others were tiny, designed for beings no larger than a human hand. Every seat mattered. Every voice was supposed to count, but one seat was always empty during the important votes. One seat was always ignored when the real decisions were made. Earth's seat. Dr. Una stood near that seat, her hands folded in front of her. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had spent 30 years learning 14 alien languages. She understood their cultures, their histories, their fears. She had dedicated her life to making humanity's voice heard in this chamber. Today, like every other day, nobody wanted to listen. The High Counselor Tova floated at the center of the chamber. She was an Eldari, an ancient species that looked like living light wrapped in silk. Her people had ruled 1,000 star systems for 10,000 years. To her, humans were babies, amusing, harmless, unimportant. The Dread Swarm has consumed 23 star systems, Tova announced. Her voice was like wind through crystal. We must discuss our response. A wave of fear passed through the chamber. The Dread Swarm was a nightmare that had returned after 1,000,000 years of silence. They were not a species. They were a hunger, a living darkness that ate everything in its path. Ships, planets, stars, nothing survived there. Attention. Ambassador Krill of the Veth Empire rose from his seat. He was an insectoid creature, 3 meters tall, with armored skin and 6 limbs that clicked when he moved. The Veth were warriors. They had conquered 200 systems through blood and fire. They feared nothing. The Veth Empire will crush this threat, Krill declared. Our Grand Armada is mobilizing. 10,000 warships. The swarm will break against our strength like waves against stone. The chamber erupted in applause. The Veth were arrogant, but they were powerful. Many believed they could end this threat alone. Dr. Una raised her hand. The translation device in her ear whispered the alien words into human language. She waited for recognition. She waited for permission to speak. Nobody acknowledged her. She raised her hand higher. High Counselor, Earth requests permission to address the assembly. Silence fell over the chamber. Not the respectful silence of attention. The uncomfortable silence of embarrassment. As if a child had spoken during an adult conversation, High Counselor Tova turned her glowing form toward the human delegation. Something like amusement flickered in her ancient eyes. The representative from Earth may speak. Dr. Una walked to the speaking platform. She could feel 847 gazes upon her. Most were curious. Some were hostile. Many were simply bored. Thank you, High Counselor, Una began. Earth's military analysts have studied the Dread Swarm's attack patterns. We believe a coordinated defense strategy across multiple empires would be more effective than individual responses. We propose. Laughter cut her off. Ambassador Krill made a sound like grinding metal. The Veth equivalent of mockery. The humans want to teach us strategy? Their species has been in space for less than 300 years. They have no fleet, no empire, no power. More laughter spread through the chamber. Creatures of all shapes and sizes found unity in their amusement at humanity's expense. Let the children observe, Krill continued, waving one of his limbs dismissively. They have nothing to offer. Perhaps they can learn something from watching their betters. Dr. Una did not react. Her face remained calm. She had heard worse. She had endured worse. She simply nodded and returned to Earth's seat. High above the chamber, in the observation deck reserved for military advisors, Admiral Park Hwan watched everything. He was 62 years old, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. He had commanded Earth's defense forces for 20 years. He had studied every alien civilization, learned their strengths, understood their weaknesses. He was not angry at the laughter. He was not offended by the dismissal. He was patient. A young officer stood beside him. Lieutenant Nari, his tactical advisor. She was brilliant, sharp-tongued, and struggled to hide her frustration. "They won't even raid our proposals," Nari said through gritted teeth. "Our analysis of the swarm's patterns could save millions of lives." "They don't want our help," Park Hwan replied. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "They don't believe we have anything worth offering." "Then why are we here?" The Admiral turned away from the viewport. "We are here to watch, to learn, to wait." He pulled out a small communication device and typed a brief message. The encryption was human-made, unbreakable by any known alien technology. The message traveled through quantum channels that the Galactic Assembly did not even know existed. The message was simple. They won't listen. Proceed with Protocol Sunrise. 3 days later, the Dread Swarm attacked the Veth Empire's border colonies. 12 planets fell in a single night. Billions died screaming as the darkness consumed everything they had built. Ambassador Krill's confidence shattered. His grand armada mobilized, rushing toward the enemy. The galaxy watched with hope. Surely the mighty Veth would stop this threat. Meanwhile, Earth's delegation quietly packed their belongings. Dr. Yuna said nothing as she walked to the shuttle bay. Admiral Park Hwan followed, his face unreadable. High Counselor Tova noticed their departure. She felt a moment of contempt. The humans were running away. Cowards, as she had always suspected. They would hide on their little blue planet while the real civilizations fought and bled. She turned her attention back to the war. Earth did not matter. Earth had never mattered. She would remember those thoughts later. She would remember them with shame, because humanity was not running. Humanity was preparing. And when they returned, the galaxy would never ignore Earth's seat again. The Battle of Korath Nebula was supposed to be the end of the Dread Swarm. 10,000 Veth warships gathered in formation, their weapons charged, their warriors ready. Ambassador Krill himself commanded the flagship, standing tall on the bridge as his fleet prepared to strike. The Veth had conquered 200 star systems. They had never lost a major battle. Their ships were the most advanced in the galaxy, their soldiers the most feared. This enemy would fall like all the others. The swarm arrived like a tide of shadows. Millions of creatures, each one a living weapon, poured out of the darkness between stars. They moved as one mind, one hunger, one purpose. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Veth ships exploded by the hundreds. Their shields meant nothing. Their weapons did almost no damage. The swarm adapted to every attack within seconds. What hurt them once never hurt them again. Ambassador Krill watched his empire's pride burn around him. He screamed orders that nobody could follow. He demanded attacks that achieved nothing. When the swarm reached his flagship, he finally understood the truth. The Veth were not the hunters. They were the prey. The galaxy received the news in stunned silence. 10,000 ships destroyed. The greatest military force in known space, erased in less than 15 minutes. The dread swarm continued forward, hungry for more. Panic spread through the Galactic Assembly. Species that had existed for millions of years began preparing for extinction. Some tried to flee to other galaxies. Others built bunkers deep beneath their worlds. None believed they could win. The Eldari sovereignty tried diplomacy. High Counselor Tova herself led a delegation to meet the swarm. Perhaps the ancient enemy could be reasoned with. Perhaps some bargain could be struck. The diplomatic vessel transmitted its message of peace. The swarm's response came immediately. The creatures surrounded the ship and began consuming it, metal and flesh together. While the transmission continued broadcasting, the galaxy heard Tova's screams before the signal died. But Tova was not on that ship. She had sent representatives, not herself. She sat in her chambers on Nexus Prime, listening to her people die, and felt something she had not experienced in 3,000 years, far from the chaos. Hidden in the shadows of an unnamed asteroid field, a single ship watched everything. The ESV Horizon was Earth's most advanced stealth cruiser. Its hull absorbed all sensors. Its engines produced no heat signature. To the rest of the galaxy, it did not exist. Captain Day stood on the bridge, his arms crossed, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. He was 40 years old, calm under pressure, chosen for this mission because he never panicked. Around him, his crew worked in focused silence. Lieutenant Nari sat at the analysis station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Data from the battle flooded her screens. Swarm movement patterns, attack strategies, adaptation rates. They're learning, she said quietly. Every battle makes them smarter. They remember what works against them and change. Within 3 encounters, they become immune to any weapon. Captain Day nodded slowly. Send everything to Earth. Admiral Parquan needs to see this. Already done, sir. The horizon slipped deeper into the shadows. Gathering more intelligence, remain. Ing unseen. Earth had ships throughout the galaxy, watching, recording, learning. Nobody knew they were there. Nobody suspected. Weeks passed. The swarm consumed system after system. The great empires threw everything they had at the enemy and failed. The Corvani Federation lost 800 ships in a desperate last stand. The Mythan Collective tried biological weapons and only made the swarm stronger. Nothing worked. Nothing slowed the advance. On Nexus Prime, General Sorak of the Eldari Sovereignty made a decision that could end his career. He was old for his species, nearly 4,000 years, and he had served in 100 wars. He recognized the truth that others refused to see. They were losing. They would continue to lose. Unless something changed, the galaxy would fall. He locked himself in his private quarters and composed a message. His hands trembled as he typed. What he was doing violated every protocol, every tradition, every law of his people. He was asking humans for help. To the representatives of Earth, he wrote, I know your people departed our assembly. I know we gave you no reason to care about our fate. But I have studied your species. I have seen things others ignore. You are not weak. You are not primitive. You are something else entirely. And I think you have been hiding your true nature from us. He paused, searching for the right words. I am begging you. Help us. Whatever price you ask, we will pay. If you have any power to stop this darkness, please use it. Not for us. For everyone. He sent the message through back channels, unofficial routes that his government did not monitor. Then he waited. Days passed. No response came. The swarm reached the galactic core. Trillions of lives hung in the balance. The remaining empires prepared for their final battles, knowing they would lose. High Counselor Tova addressed the assembly one last time. Her light had dimmed. Her voice had lost its music. We face extinction, she said. If any species has hidden resources, hidden weapons, hidden hope, now is the time to reveal them. Her eyes scanned the chamber. She paused at Earth's empty seat. Where are the humans? Someone asked, did they flee? Did they die? Tova felt a bitter taste in her mouth. Cowards, she said. They abandoned us. They ran to their little planet and hid while the galaxy burned. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance. The words were hardly spoken when every screen in the chamber flickered. Every communication channel activated at once. A signal was broadcasting on all frequencies from a source that sensors could not locate. A human voice spoke. Calm, clear, cold. This is Admiral Park Hwan of the Earth Defense Coalition. We received your request for assistance, General Sarak. We apologize for the delay. The chamber fell silent. 847 species listened in shock. For 50 years, you laughed at us. You dismissed us. You told us we had nothing to offer. The Admiral's voice carried no anger, only truth. You were wrong. The transmission ended with 2 words that would echo through history. We are coming. Earth had been quiet for months. No ships left the Sol system. No transmissions reached the outside galaxy. The great empires assumed humanity was hiding, building shelters, preparing for death like frightened animals. They could not have been more wrong. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in a facility that no alien sensor had ever detected, Director Yoon stood before a wall of screens. She was a small woman with silver-streaked hair and soft features that hid an iron will. For 30 years, she had led Project Sunrise, humanity's greatest secret. Today, that secret would be revealed. Status report, she said calmly. Chief Engineer Tay stepped forward. He was tall and thin, with eyes that never seemed to rest. He had designed weapons that the galaxy thought impossible. He had built machines that broke the laws of physics as aliens understood them. All systems are ready, Director, he said. The Aegis network is online. The Ghost Fleet is fully armed. The Vanguard soldiers have completed their final training. Yoon nodded slowly. Show me. The screens flickered and displayed images that would have terrified any alien observer. For 50 years, while the galaxy laughed at humanity, Earth had been busy. Every piece of alien technology that reached human hands was studied, taken apart, and rebuilt better than before. The Aegis network appeared first. Thousands of defense satellites surrounded the Sol system, each one capable of destroying an entire swarm cluster. Their weapons used energy frequencies that no alien had ever discovered. Their shields could withstand attacks that would melt planets. The network can protect Earth indefinitely, Tay explained. Nothing gets through. Nothing. The next image showed the Ghost Fleet. 500 warships, sleek and dark, designed to be invisible. They produced no heat, no radiation, no signal of any kind. To alien sensors, they simply did not exist. Each ship carries weapons designed specifically to counter the swarm, Tay continued. We've analyzed their adaptation patterns. Our weapons change faster than they can evolve. They cannot become immune to what they cannot predict. Director Yoon's eyes moved to the final display. Rows of soldiers stood in perfect formation, encased in armor that made them look like metal giants. The Vanguard, the soldiers? She asked, enhanced beyond anything the galaxy has seen. Stronger, faster, they can survive in vacuum. They can fight for days without rest. Each one is worth 1,000 ordinary troops. Corporal Wu stood among those soldiers. He was 25 years old, born in a small town outside Seoul, raised on stories of human perseverance. When he volunteered for the Vanguard program, they told him the process would be painful. They told him he might die. He did not care. He wanted to protect his people. He wanted to prove that humanity was not weak, that the enhancement process had changed him. He could run faster than ground vehicles. He could lift weights that would crush normal humans. His senses had sharpened until he could hear heartbeats from across a room. The armor they gave him amplified everything further. He was not just a soldier anymore. He was a weapon, and he was one of 10,000. Director Yoon turned away from the screens and faced the gathered officers. Admiral Park Won stood among them, his expression calm, his eyes sharp. "For 50 years, we endured their mockery," Yoon said. Her voice was steady, but emotion flickered beneath the surface. "They called us children. They said we had nothing to offer. They ignored our warnings and dismissed our proposals." She paused, letting the words settle. They were wrong. We did not waste those years feeling sorry for ourselves. We worked, we prepared, we built. While they rested on their ancient achievements, we surpassed them. Admiral Park Won stepped forward. "The Ghost Fleet is ready to deploy. Our soldiers are eager for battle. But I need to ask one more time, Director. Are we certain this is the right path?" Yoon met his eyes. "We could stay hidden. We could protect Earth and let the galaxy burn. They showed us no kindness. They offered us no respect. But that is not who we are." Her voice hardened. "We are human. We do not abandon others to die, even those who despised us. We will save them, and then they will understand what they ignored." The Admiral nodded. "And let us begin." In a secret hangar beneath the lunar surface, Chief Engineer Tay revealed one final weapon. It hung in the darkness like a sleeping god, a machine so powerful that even its creators feared it. The Sunbreaker. "This device destabilizes stars," Tay explained quietly. "One shot, and a sun collapses. Everything in that system dies. Planets, moons, stations, fleets, everything." Admiral Park Hwan stared at the weapon. "A last resort. Yes, if all else fails, we can destroy the swarm's home system. End them permanently." Tay's voice dropped. "But the cost would be enormous. Billions of swarm creatures, yes, but also any prisoners they hold. Any worlds nearby. We would become destroyers on a scale the galaxy has never seen." "Pray we never need it," Park Hwan said that the next day. Earth's leaders gathered in the United Assembly Hall in Geneva. Every nation, every government, every faction stood united. Differences that had divided humanity for centuries meant nothing now. They were one people facing one challenge. Director Yoon addressed them all. The galaxy ignored us. They laughed at our seat in their assembly. They said we were primitive, weak, unimportant. She raised her head high. "Today, we prove them wrong. Not through words, through action. We will save them from the darkness they cannot defeat. And when we are done, they will never forget our name." The room erupted in cheers. Flags waved. Voices rose in 100 languages, all saying the same thing. Earth was ready. Hours later, the Ghost Fleet powered up its engines. 500 ships rose from hidden bases on moons and asteroids throughout the Sol system. They moved in perfect formation, silent and deadly. Admiral Park Hwan stood on the bridge of the flagship. The ESV Dawn. Captain Day and Lieutenant Nari flanked him. "Send the message," Park Hwan ordered. Lieutenant Nari's fingers moved across her console. The transmission went out on every frequency, reaching every corner of the galaxy. "We're coming." And for the first time in a million years, the Dread Swarm would face an enemy that would not run. The Dread Swarm had reached the heart of the galaxy. Billions of creatures moved through space like a living shadow, consuming everything in their path. Behind them lay the ruins of civilizations that had existed for millions of years. Ahead lay the remaining population centers of a dozen empires. High Counselor Tova watched from her command ship as the swarm approached. Her fleet was the last defense. 2,000 Eldari vessels, crewed by soldiers who knew they would not survive. They had accepted death. They only hoped to slow the enemy long enough for civilians to escape. "Weapons ready," Tova commanded. Her voice was calm, hiding the terror beneath. All ships, prepare for final engagement. The swarm drew closer. Millions of creatures. An endless tide of hunger and destruction. Tova's sensors showed the overwhelming numbers. Her tactical officers had stopped calculating odds. There was no point. Then the impossible happened. Space rippled. 500 ships appeared from nowhere, materializing directly in the center of the swarm formation. They had no heat signatures, no energy readings, no warning of any kind. One moment empty space. The next, a fleet. Human ships. Admiral Parquan's voice cut through all frequencies. All Eldari vessels, hold position. This fight belongs to us. Before Tova could respond, the Ghost Fleet opened fire. The weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Beams of light that shifted frequency 1,000 times per second. Missiles that adapted their payload mid-flight. Projectiles that passed through swarm armor like it was made of paper. The swarm tried to adapt. They always adapted. It was their greatest strength, the reason they had never been defeated. But humanity had planned for this. Chief Engineer Tay's weapons changed faster than the swarm, could evolve. Every time the creatures developed resistance, human weapons shifted to something new. Every defense was countered before it could work. The swarm died by the thousands, then by the millions. Pilot Gia led the fighter squadrons. She was 28 years old, fearless, and slightly crazy by most standards. Her ship danced through the chaos, destroying swarm creatures with impossible precision. "This is what you get," she broadcast on open channels, knowing the swarm could hear her. "This is what happens when you threaten humanity. You wanted to eat our worlds? Choke on our fire instead." Her squadron punched through the swarm lines, heading straight for the largest creature in the formation. The Swarm Queen's flagship, a living mountain of flesh and metal, the mind that controlled the entire invasion. "All fighters, follow me," Gia ordered. "We're going to say hello." They flew into the heart of darkness. Meanwhile, transport ships carrying Vanguard soldiers reached the swarm's hive ships. These massive vessels served as breeding grounds for new creatures. Destroying them would cripple the swarm's ability to replace losses. Corporal Wu was among the first aboard. The interior of the hive ship was a nightmare. Organic walls pulsed with alien life. The air was toxic. The temperature shifted between freezing and burning. Swarm warriors rushed at the invaders, creatures designed to kill anything that entered their home. The Vanguard. Soldiers did not slow down. Wu's armor protected him from the environment. His enhanced body let him move faster than the swarm could react. His weapons tore through enemy after enemy. "Push forward," he commanded his squad. "Find the core. Destroy it." They fought for hours. Normal soldiers would have collapsed from exhaustion. Normal soldiers would have run out of ammunition. Normal soldiers would have died 100 times over. The Vanguard were not normal. They reached the core of the hive ship, a massive organic structure that controlled the vessel's functions. Wu planted explosive charges while his team held off waves of attackers. Charges set. Everyone out. They fought their way back to the transport, leaving devastation behind them. As their ship pulled away, the hive ship exploded from within. One breeding ground destroyed. Thousands of potential swarm creatures eliminated before they could be born. Across the battlefield, human forces repeated this pattern. Board, destroy, escape. Board, destroy, escape. The swarm's numbers began to shrink. On the bridge of the ESV Dawn, Admiral Parquan coordinated everything. His tactical display showed the entire battle, thousands of engagements happening simultaneously. His orders came quick and precise. 3rd Squadron, reinforce Sector 7. Vanguard Team 4, target the eastern hive ship. Fighter wings, provide cover for extraction. Lieutenant Nari worked beside him, her eyes never leaving her screens. "Admiral, the swarm is retreating. They're actually pulling back." Parquan showed no celebration. "They're afraid. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, they feel fear. Don't let them escape." The ghost fleet pressed forward. Human ships chased the retreating swarm, destroying stragglers, preventing any organized withdrawal. Deep within the Swarm Queen's flagship, something ancient stirred. Umbra had ruled the swarm for 1,000,000 years. She had consumed 100 civilizations. She had never known defeat. Now she felt something new. An emotion her species had forgotten long ago. Terror. These small creatures, these humans, were not like the others. They did not break. They did not flee. They fought with a fury that matched her own hunger. Their weapons adapted faster than her children could evolve. Their soldiers showed no mercy. For the first time, Umbra considered retreat. True retreat. Abandoning this galaxy and seeking prey elsewhere. But it was too late. Pilot Gia's squadron had reached her flagship. Human fighters swarmed through the internal corridors, destroying vital systems. Gia herself flew straight toward Umbra's central chamber. "Hello, Your Majesty," Gia broadcast. "Humanity sends its regards." Her ship released its entire payload directly into Umbra's core systems. The explosion shook the massive flagship. Umbra screamed across the psychic link that connected all swarm creatures. Every being in her army felt her pain, her fear, her disbelief. The tide of battle had turned. On High Counselor Tova's ship, the Eldari crew watched in stunned silence. Creatures that had seemed unstoppable were dying. The darkness that had consumed empires was retreating. "What are they?" one officer whispered. Tova had no answer. She had called humans children. She had mocked their primitive technology. She had said they had nothing to offer. Now she watched them do what no other species had managed. They were winning. Dr. Yuna's voice came through the communication channels, calm and clear. "This is Earth. We are not hiding. We were waiting. Waiting until you needed us. Waiting until you understood." The message spread across the galaxy. Species that had prepared for extinction now watched in hope. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year had passed since the Battle of the Galactic Core. The dread swarm had retreated to their home system, broken and desperate. Billions of their creatures had been destroyed. Their hive ships lay scattered across 100 battlefields. Their queen was wounded and afraid, but they were not yet defeated. Admiral Parquan stood on the bridge of the ESV Dawn as the combined human fleet approached the swarm's final stronghold. 300 ghost fleet ships, surrounded by vessels from every surviving empire. Eldari, Corvani, Mythan, even the remnants of this Veth had joined the coalition. Humanity led them all. "Admiral," Lieutenant Nari reported, "the Sunbreaker is in position. Chief Engineer Tay confirms the weapon is ready." Parquan looked at the display, showing the swarm's home star. A yellow sun, ancient and stable. Around it orbited the breeding worlds where the swarm had multiplied for millions of years. Trillions of creatures. The heart of the nightmare. "Any response to our surrender demands?" he asked. "Nothing, sir. The Swarm Queen refuses all communication." Parquan closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about what he was about to do. The Sunbreaker would collapse that star. Everything in the system would be destroyed. Trillions of lives, even alien and hostile ones, erased in an instant. He was about to commit an act of destruction larger than any in galactic history. "Do we have confirmation that they are holding no prisoners?" he asked quietly. "Confirmed. Long-range scans show no non-swarm life signs." The Admiral opened his eyes. "Then we have no choice. They will not stop. They will never stop. If we leave them alive, They will rebuild. They will return. And next time, they might win. He turned to face his crew. These men and women had followed him through impossible battles. They had watched their species rise from mockery to leadership. They trusted him completely. Activate the Sunbreaker. The weapon fired a beam of energy that bent space itself. It struck the swarm star and began a chain reaction that could not be stopped. The sun trembled. Its light flickered. Then it collapsed inward, becoming a point of infinite density before exploding. Outward in a wave of fire, the swarm's home system ceased to exist. Corporal Wu watched from the observation deck of his transport ship. He had fought in 12 battles against the swarm. He had lost friends. He had been wounded. He had given everything he had to this war. Now it was over. He felt no joy, only tired relief. The nightmare was finally finished. Days later, the transport landed on the dead remains of the Swarm Queen's throne world. The planet had survived the stellar collapse, though barely. Its surface was burned and frozen in patches. Wu was chosen to plant Earth's flag. He walked across the broken ground, his armor protecting him from the harsh environment. In his hands, he carried a simple flag, blue and green, Earth's colors. He found the ruins of Umbra's throne, a twisted mass of organic material that had once held the most feared creature in the galaxy. He drove the flagpole into the ground beside it. For humanity, he said quietly. For everyone you tried to destroy. The flag stood straight in the dead wind, a symbol that would be remembered forever. Months later, the Galactic Assembly reconvened. But not on Nexus Prime, not in the Great Hall, where humanity had been mocked and dismissed. The new Assembly met on Earth. Leaders from across the galaxy traveled to the small blue planet that had saved them all. They came in ships of every design, representing species that had existed for millions of years. They came humble and grateful. The meeting was held in Geneva, in a hall built specifically for this moment. The seats were arranged in a circle, just like the old assembly. But this time, Earth's seat was at the center. High Counselor Tova entered the hall slowly. Her light had dimmed since the war. She looked older, tired, changed. When she saw Admiral Park Hwan standing near Earth's seat, she stopped. The chamber fell silent. Tova walked forward until she stood before the human admiral. Then, slowly, with movements that cost her great pride, she lowered herself. An Eldari kneeling before a human. Something that had never happened in 10,000 years of history. "We called you children," she said. Her voice cracked with emotion. "We mocked your technology. We ignored your warnings. We said you had nothing to offer." She looked up at Park Hwan's calm face. "We were the fools. You saved us when we deserved nothing. You fought for us when we had given you every reason to abandon us. I do not ask for forgiveness. I only offer my gratitude and my shame." Park Hwan looked at the ancient being kneeling before him. He could have enjoyed this moment. He could have gloated. He had earned that right. Instead, he reached down and helped Tova to her feet. "We did not save you for gratitude," he said gently. "We saved you because it was right. Because that is who we are. We do not abandon others in their moment of need, even those who wronged us." Tova stared at him, tears forming in her ageless eyes. She understood something in that moment. Something important. Humanity's greatest power was not their weapons, not their technology, not their soldiers. It was their heart. Dr. Yuna stepped forward to address the assembly. She had waited 30 years for this moment. 30 years of being dismissed, ignored, laughed at. "We ask for nothing but what we always wanted," she said. A voice, a seat at the table, a chance to be heard. Director Yoon rose from Earth's seat. She had led Project Sunrise from the shadows. Now she stepped into the light. The galaxy faces many challenges, she announced. The swarm is defeated, but other threats will come. We propose a new galactic defense coalition, with Earth coordinating our combined efforts. Not because we wish to rule, because we have proven we know how to protect. The vote was unanimous. Earth would lead the coalition. Later that night, Admiral Park Hwan stood before a window, looking at the stars he had fought to protect. Lieutenant Nari joined him, standing in comfortable silence. "Do you think they will ever forget?" she asked. Park Hwan smiled. His eyes reflected the distant lights of a galaxy that was forever changed. "No, and that is exactly what we wanted." 100 years later, alien children across the Milky Way learned a simple lesson in their schools. Teachers of every species told the same story. Never ignore Earth's seat. Never underestimate humanity. They are small. They are young. They are patient, and when they rise, galaxies tremble.